Hello, welcome. So today we're going to be looking at r/relationships. So if you want to come with me and look through the dirty laundry of other people's relationships, then please do stick around and enjoy. And don't forget to like and subscribe, please. Thank you. Okay then, first post posted by NoYear6370. My husband, 32M, broke something meaningful to me, 26F. He wanted to make it right, but immediately snapped at me when I talked about when I'd like to do it. Now I'm not sure I want him involved or how to say that. We've been together for 4 years, married for 1. For context, the item he broke was a spell jar, specifically for self-love. I'm not interested in debating witchcraft, it is what it is. I enjoy it and it is emotionally fulfilling for me. One night my husband threw something from the bed to throw away later and managed to knock my jar off of the table. It wasn't very close to him or the edge, but accidents happen. I asked him what fell, and he tried to hide it for a moment, then admitted that it was one of my jars. I checked it out and was disappointed, but it was okay. He apologised and asked if I could just heat the candle up and throw it back on, to which I told him that the jar was broken, and that wasn't really how it worked. He offered to buy new supplies or even asked if he could help in some way, which I thought was nice as he's never been interested in it before. He of course has known that I enjoy witchy stuff since we got together, but sees it more of a thing you do for fun and vibes. Yesterday, in the car, he mentioned that we needed to get the materials together and do it soon. I was pleased and surprised that he brought it up, and I said, that sounds great. I need to do some research and figure out when would be a good time to put it together. This apparently offended him, and his vibe immediately changed. He snapped at me and said, I wasn't looking for a deadline, I was just saying we'll get the stuff. Because we were in the car, I kind of sat there in shock, not sure how to respond. After a minute, I said, I'm sorry, that's definitely not how I meant for that to come across, and he just huffed at me. The rest of the car ride felt awful for me, but he was fine. I just kept thinking about how much I didn't want him to be involved at all, and that I would procure my own things. Of course, now if I say that to him, it's going to be a fight because he'll know that it was about this incident. This isn't the first time he has gone off on me for what I felt was a very mild and positive response, but this is definitely one of the more hurtful times. Yes, we have talked about it. He says, moments of tension in conversation is normal. We should be able to move on without it being a big thing, and then I just don't get it because of my upbringing. No, I disagree, because all you said was, that sounds great, I need to do some research and figure out when would be a good time to put it together. So yeah, it wasn't a negative thing. It was just the OP bit saying, oh, that's cool, yeah, let's get the stuff and I'll figure out when's the best time for me to put it together. Why is that such a point of tension for him? That's weird. I don't know how to approach this at all. I just wanted him to leave me alone and let me mess with my stuff in peace, as the jar was just about me anyway. Then I wonder if he didn't snap at me hoping for this outcome. I wasn't forcing him to do it in the first place and was very calm about the accident. Yes, I am aware that I should not be so afraid to upset him. He was not like this before we married, so it's been confusing. Whether I should leave or not is not my question, but I can see his behaviour towards me isn't very kind or good for my mental health. TLDR, husband broke my spell jar by accident. He immediately tells me he wants to make it right, then later snaps at me for even suggesting when I would like to start the process, as he wasn't looking for a deadline. I'm trying to figure out how to approach doing it myself now without it blowing up into something I don't want it to. Honestly, it's concerning to me if you can't just go out and buy the stuff and do it yourself without it being a big blow up. You shouldn't be worried that it's going to cause a huge blow up just to go out and get the stuff yourself and do it. That's concerning. It's not even about what was said in this post, it's the undertones of why is this OP so worried? Such a very just normal thing to do, you know? That is concerning to me. So, down in the comments, Remarkable Badger 3205 says, honestly, just tell him that you've decided to handle it yourself since it's a personal self-love thing anyway. If he throws a fit over that, then you've got your answer about what kind of person he really is. And then Aldonza says, this is excellent advice. And honestly, my ex-husband got that way after we were married, and it progressively got worse and worse until I was walking on eggshells every day. Not saying that that's what's happening here, but your feelings are valid, and dismissing how you feel when you get snapped at is not cool behavior, and not how you treat someone you love. Exactly. This is the thing. I hate when I see people say, well, why did you get into a relationship with an abuser anyway? Or like, and I'm not saying that that's what the OP's husband is, by the way. I'm talking more about the commenter here, and they've just basically hit the nail on the head with their comment. They said that their ex-husband only got that way after they were married, and that's what a lot of abusive partners do. They wait until they've got you where they want you, and then they show their true colours, and that could take a year or two before they show their true colours. People who are built that way are very good actors, and they know how to trap their prey, essentially. Okay, next post, posted by Diligent Natural 3457. Fiance feels he has no privacy because my mum lives with us. I don't know what to do. Hi Reddit, looking for advice and outside perspective. I'm 41F, fiance is 40M. We met in Florida 5 years ago and moved to Colorado together 3 years ago. Right around the time we were discussing moving and selling my house, my stepfather, my mum's husband of 20 years, was diagnosed with terminal cancer. I asked my boyfriend at the time if he would be open to my mum eventually living with us after her husband passed, because she had moved to Florida originally for me and wouldn't be able to afford living alone on Social Security. We talked it through and he was fully supportive and said he loved my mum and wanted to help. We moved to Colorado and my stepfather passed about a month later. My mum joined us shortly after. We bought a house we loved largely because it has a fully finished basement with 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, full kitchen, its own laundry, and a private side entrance. Essentially, a separate apartment. My mum is 69 and pays us $1,000 a month in rent. She's very active socially, seniors groups, church dinners, grief support, trips, etc. She's not dependent on us emotionally or socially, which I'm grateful for. However, she's had health issues since moving to Colorado, mainly breathing problems. Because of that, she usually lets her dog out into the backyard instead of walking him. The issue, there's no exterior access from her basement unit directly to the backyard. To let her dog out, or access her car, which is usually parked in the garage, she walks through our main living space several times a day. My fiancé is very introverted and values privacy. He's always been polite to my mum, but very reserved. Over the last few years, I've noticed that he's increasingly uncomfortable with the lack of separation, though he hasn't said much until now. Okay, I'm just going through and editing this now, and apologies if I sound awful. I am ill again. Honestly, I have the worst luck in the winter. But I just picked up on, and I don't know why I didn't pick up on this before, where the OP says, oh, I've noticed that he seemed to be unhappy with the situation a little bit, or whatever the wording was, over the last few years. And I'm thinking to myself, why, if you notice, did you not mention that you've noticed that they're unhappy? Because clearly they don't feel like they can, and I'm not saying that's on the OP to make them, but it would annoy me too much thinking that there was tension. I'd have to say something. Last night, after a small, normal interaction involving coordinating dogs, he finally opened up. Calmly but emotionally, he said he feels like he has a roommate, not a private home. He doesn't like not knowing when someone will come upstairs, feels he has no real downtime, and wishes my mum used her separate entrance more. He also mentioned frustration about cleaning up dog messes in the yard. He said with our wedding coming up, in October, he needs something to change, and that right now it feels like I'm choosing my mum over him. I'm devastated. I love my fiance deeply and want a future with him. At the same time, I just can't ask my mum to leave. She can't afford to live alone, and this living arrangement was something we both agreed to under very difficult circumstances. Now, ordinarily, I would agree that I probably would not like to have a partner's parents living with me. I wouldn't like that. I like my privacy too. However, where this OP's fiance says it feels like I'm choosing my mum over him, it's not like he's really brought it up as a big issue before. Like, he's only just brought it up. So it's not really like the OP's choosing her mum over him, and he agreed to it. They even purposefully bought this house for that reason. So they could see then that there was no access to the backyard and that there was no access to the garage without having to come through the main house. So, you know, he does have to take some of the blame for that situation too. Patient zero here again whilst I'm editing. Allow me a moment to argue with myself. So I'm listening to what I have just said. And as much as, of course, I do think that the OP's husband-to-be, definitely does need to recognise that he kind of has to take a little bit of blame on the situation because he agreed to it all. You know, they had to go through a whole process of buying a house on purpose for just that. I do also want to recognise that people are more than allowed to change their mind on a situation that they had no idea how it was going to feel and pan out until they did it. So, you know, I do think we have to give the OP's fella a bit of grace there because he didn't know how he was really going to feel until they'd been in this situation for a while, and then he's gone, ah, crap, this is not for me. I don't like this. And, you know, fair enough. That is actually fair. How was he supposed to know he wasn't going to enjoy the situation until being in the situation, you know? So I do think we have to give the dues there, really, don't we? I'm devastated. I love my fiance deeply and want a future with him. At the same time, I can't just ask my mum to leave. She can't afford to live alone, and this living arrangement was something we both agreed to under very difficult circumstances. I don't know what's reasonable anymore. Is it fair to ask my mum to change habits that directly affect her health? Is it fair to expect my fiance to just accept this indefinitely? How do I even start a conversation with my mum without hurting her deeply? I feel stuck between two people I love and I don't know what the right next step is. TLDR, my fiance and I agreed years ago that mum would live with us after my stepfather passed. She now lives in the basement apartment, but regularly has to come through our main living space. My fiance feels he has no privacy and says something needs to change before we get married. I don't know how to balance his needs with my responsibility to my mum. Edit. I know it's hard to visualise, but the side entrance to the apartment faces the street. It doesn't connect to the garage, and there is no way to add access to the backyard even if spending money. The stairs are concrete, and on the top of the fence that separates the neighbour house and ours, there is no room to make access. The only way for her to access the backyard is by going out to the street, and since we are a corner lot, walking around the house to the other side of the street and then going in. The main problem with that is cold weather, snowy and icy sidewalks. It's an option, just a hard conversation with mum, and I feel I will hurt her feelings too. But considering it, I mean, let's be honest, how big is your friggin' house? It can't be that big that just walking around the front of the house to get in through the side gate would be difficult. And I said that, by the way, because the OP said themselves that their mum is active and goes here, there and everywhere doing all sorts of activities. So I don't think walking around the front of the house is going to be a problem physical ability wise is what I meant. But obviously I could be wrong on that. I could be reading that completely wrong. And I'm just some idiot on the internet. So what do I know? And there are ways to get around the possibility of snow and ice and stuff like that as well. There are things you can do there. So that is, I think, a good option. Because it can't take that long to walk around the house just to let the dog out, surely. So, down in the comments, this appointment 5451 says, honestly, this sounds like a house design issue more than anything else. Can you guys look into adding a door, gate from the basement area directly to the backyard? Even if it costs a few grand, it would solve like 90% of the problem and probably save your relationship. The dog yard cleanup thing is separate. maybe just have a convo about whose responsibility that is, since it's her dog but your yard. Yeah, that bit would piss me off, especially, like, even if I felt like it was reasonable for me to have my mum in the basement, if she was letting her dog poo all over the backyard, not cleaning it up, I would be miffed, very much so. And then Morisac10 says, exactly. Or maybe just extend the fence to surround her existing side entrance so she can let the dog out easily. Yeah, that is a good point, actually. Maybe make a little closed off area where the dog can go out right at the top of her stairs. Okay, last post for the day. Littlest Noodle says, I, 28F, gave my husband, 30M, a last chance, and he's delivering. First, I'm writing this on mobile, so I apologise for any formatting issues. For context, if you haven't read my previous post, I have been in this relationship since high school and we have been married for 3 years. There is a reason, by the way, I didn't go back and find this other post, because I did go back and find it, and honestly, the OP just repeats themselves in this compared to what they put in that one. There's no new information between them, so I just thought I might as well read the more recent one, to be honest. I recently posted saying that my therapist didn't believe that I was compatible with my husband. The comments I received made me aware that how he treated me in the past was emotional abuse, and it made me ready to leave. I sat him down and talked to him about how he's treated me in the past, how I felt like a painting meant to blend into the wall instead of a partner, how I felt like I couldn't be myself completely safely, and he acknowledged that he hasn't handled things well. He said that he knows he was abusive and he's trying hard every day to become a different person than he was. He told me that he was going to show me and prove to me that he could be everything I needed and more. He agreed to go to couples therapy with me. That was a month ago. Over the past month, he's been showing me exactly that. He's being romantic, he's showing me in little ways that he loves me, he's talking to me calmly and rationally. He isn't letting his emotions take over whatsoever. It feels like a complete 180 happened, and he's really trying. He keeps acknowledging that he took me for granted, that he wasn't what I deserved, and he's trying to atone now for who he was in the past. So what I need advice on is, how do I start trusting that he's actually changing and get to the point that I don't feel on edge all of the time? I feel on edge because I'm still waiting for the shoe to drop, but he's showing me all of the right things and being 110% supportive of me being more myself. I love him and I'm finally feeling love back, but I just feel scared. TLDR, my previous emotionally abusive husband has changed completely and I'm trying to learn to trust him. So I'll read you now one of the posts that gives us some of the reasons why the OP was seeking basically therapy and what have you from the marriage. So this was in a separate post in a different subreddit that I found, but basically she says that over the years he's been emotionally abusive. I didn't think it was until sharing my experience with my therapist and Reddit through several deleted posts over the years. But he has a very unpredictable mood and will go from 0 to 100 very quickly. Examples from over the past year in no particular order. He spoke harshly to me about something small and our mutual friends called him out on it. He started yelling about how everyone was against him, nobody liked him, he must be the worst person ever, etc. Locked himself in the bathroom while saying he just deserved to die, and then spent 12 hours isolating in the bedroom, refusing to speak to me. He didn't snap out of it until I told him he was fine, nobody was mad at him, etc. We lived in a second-story apartment and he would snap at me for walking too heavily and say that I was going to the neighbour off. He, in the same apartment, would rage against video games and bang his controller, and yell loudly. I had a bad family emergency and went into what my therapist considered survival mode for a little over a month. He got upset that I was putting him on the back burner and not prioritising him. I asked him if he would consider going to couples therapy, we've gone before, and he said no, because it was not a him problem, and therefore not an us problem. He will snap at me and talk down to me over little things, i.e. leaving headphones on the coffee table, forgetting to put a dish away, for stepping in front of him on accident, for generally being in the way. If I try to leave him a hand-drawn picture or note, he will, and has, tear it up, crumple it, or throw it away while telling me he hates notes or cards. I had been sleeping through my alarm on accident and they woke him up one morning. He yelled about it, slammed stuff, and threw stuff around. I dropped something on the floor by the bathroom door for a second so I could rush to pee, and while I bent down to pick it up, he threw open the door hard into my head. He didn't know I was behind it. He was just angry that I dropped something onto the floor like that when we have cats that might pick at it. Right, yeah, that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. And like hell did he not know she was behind the door. My therapist has also pointed out ways that we just aren't compatible people, like me wanting more romance and physical touch, like holding my hand in public or doing little romantic gestures, or that he won't play anything competitive with me because of his temper, so no board games, video games, etc. Unless on rare occasions he plays a card game. He's never really gotten along with my friends, and now I don't really have any friends that aren't his. He's skipped out on going to my extended family's funerals with me because it makes him uncomfortable. He doesn't like me driving anywhere, so he drives every time, but his driving scares me. Just a bunch of little things. She then goes on to say, a few months ago, I gave him an ultimatum that he had to get therapy and psychiatry or I was leaving him. He followed through and got both. He's been genuinely improving over the last couple of months especially, and I'm confident that he can be a better version of himself with a couple of years. But one of the above incidents, the bathroom door, happened just a couple of weeks ago, so the improvement isn't consistent yet. It's unpredictable, which says it all really. Basically, he's not really very able to keep up the facade, is he, for very long, which is typical of people that are that way inclined. It's one of those things. Anyway, we'll go back to the comments of the original post from this person that I read. So then down in the comments of the original post, Blue Moon 138 says, it took him over a decade to get to this point. It's not going to be resolved in a month. I would continue in therapy for you, encourage therapy for him, and let it take the time that it takes. And to be skeptical and pessimistic. It's easy to change for a month. Does he have the fortitude to change long term? Only time will tell. And then the OP says, yeah, I think that's the big thing is I have to just give it time and see if the change lasts. It's very scary not being able to fully trust him, but having to anyways. I think when you have to threaten to leave and get a divorce for someone to change, you should just leave and get a divorce anyway. That's not a good relationship to be in. They're not going to change. They're just trying to panic and keep you there for as long as possible. So they'll do it for a bit, but they won't continue. So then we have an update. So 3 days ago, I was talking with my therapist about all of this, and she diagnosed me with CPTSD for the 8 years of living with his emotional verbal abuse. I haven't been able to stop focusing on that diagnosis and how much I had to have been through to get there. I realised I couldn't spend the rest of my life with someone who had treated me that way for so long, no matter how differently he's acting now. So, last night, I finally got the guts to sit down and tell him that I want to leave. I told him that I needed to put myself first and focus on healing my body and mind, and that I didn't think that I could do that living with him anymore. So last night, I finally got the guts to sit down and tell him I want to leave. We spent 5 hours talking, crying, repeating. I acknowledged how hard this is because I do truly love him, and it's therefore the hardest decision I've had to make. We already had couples therapy scheduled for this Saturday and next Saturday, so I'm staying home and awkwardly coexisting in a limbo state until we complete those. I do have a room for rent I'm going to see on Sunday, but I haven't told him about it, and that would mean me moving on February 1st. I'm absolutely terrified and heartbroken, and I don't know how else to feel right now, but I'm so proud of myself for making this decision and putting my needs first. Thank you for helping me see the abuse so that I could be honest with myself. And then Stranger on the Reddit says, I haven't seen your posts before, but I just read them all now. You're doing the right thing. 1000%. It's going to be hard and you're going to question yourself. You're going to feel guilty for hurting him by leaving and guilty for wanting your own happiness. I really want you to remember that he hurt you first, and he did it for over a decade. The pain he feels from this might be real, but it's entirely his own design. He had every opportunity to be kind to you, and he chose the opposite. He chose it every single day for 10 years. You deserve to choose yourself and your own happiness. You're doing the right thing. Yeah, 100%. And then the OP replies and says, "Thank you, stranger. I think reminding myself how long it took him to change and the fact that he only started to change after I threatened leaving is what's keeping me going on this path. It's so hard and I feel so guilty, but it's going to be okay." And then Sheila Monarch says, "Let me help you out a little further on that. Not only did he only start to change after you threatened to leave, remember that means he understood and knew what to do all along. It was never a lack of understanding. He chose your misery. He was perfectly okay with it. So it still wasn't concern for you that started any change. It was only concern for himself losing something. Let that make you exactly as angry as it should." Precisely. And then I'm hoping that the OP did move out or is about to move out and is sticking to their guns, because they have posted another post, and I'm not going to say where, because I feel like it's really not relevant to this, but basically asking for advice on how people handle a certain thing while living alone for the first time. So I'm hoping that that's a sign that means the OP is moving on and moving out, because don't be putting up with that. No one needs to be putting up with that. That's not a relationship. That is just living with somebody who likes to make you know very often how much they dislike you. And you don't deserve it. So yeah. If you made it all the way to the end with me today, then I appreciate you very, very much. If you give a little like, subscribe, turn your notifications on, that is your initiation into the Covenant Void. Welcome. Don't forget to leave your comment as an offering for Big Al. We must do that. Whatever it is you're doing for the day, I hope you have a really good rest of the day. Goodbye.